Now, this is off Wikipedia, and I know you're not supposed to source Wikipedia, so y'all can come at me in the comments
Hey, they
if you
have
don't like that.
sources. Yeah, get mad at the sources.
I didn't plug this into Wikipedia, okay? So here are your ratings, NBA ratings for the finals from 1974 to the present. And you can see the dip within the last couple of years. We know last year was a huge outlier with the finals being held in the fall in October. So, I could see a lot of arguments for that being a wash. That's fine. If we look at kind of the last 5 years here, we have, so first of all, game one gets 8.56 million viewers. That is better than last year in the bubble, which had 7.45 million viewers. Game two is still being tabulated, but it's projected right around 7 million, just above 7 million viewers for game two, just so you know. So a little dip there in game two, potentially. If we look at average viewers, this is a huge fall off from 2019, where we had 15.4 million viewers. So, all in all, if you're looking at finals that have been hosted in their normal time, so in the summer, this is the worst summer finals ratings we've had, and the worst since 2007 when the Spurs played the Cleveland Cavaliers. You can see here 9.29 million viewers there. So, Justin, I'm going to zoom in on these numbers a little bit if I can, so you guys can see that better. But can you give me just some of your thoughts about the ratings here? What might be causing that?
Yeah.
And is this something we as NBA fans should be worried about, and the league at large, of course?
Sure. I want to do a comparison. So I wonder if you could do me a favor and scroll down to the Pistons when they played the Spurs.
You got it. You got it.
And let's see how, because I remember people hating on that team. It's kind of a similar sentiment.
Pistons and the Spurs, 12.45 million average.
Okay.
Game one, 10.57 million viewers.
Interesting. That's interesting because people remember they're talking about the crap about that NBA Finals. In terms, it's very similar to this one. I think a lot of things are at play. The league popularity is down. The league is in transition, and also Richard Deitch had a really good point, and other media members. Shout out to Jimmy Traina as well as Sports Illustrated. Their point should be taken into account, which is social media, in the way that younger people consume media. So for a younger person, they may not watch the NBA Finals. They're going to get their highlights through Twitter. And, as you like, to me, like, I hate to bring up this up, but wrestling, like, I don't really watch the 3-hour shows or 2-hour shows. I watch the clips online. And so I pretty much know what happens on the show because I watch the clips. And so I think the NBA, very similar to the teams you follow, whether it's Phoenix or the Bucks or the NBA social media account. What are those metrics? I think that is a factor in this. And saying that, I think the league has done a fairly poor job in the recent years of highlighting its younger stars. Now, I think what started this trend to be reversed before the pandemic happened was Zion. Zion was a huge pick. That was a focus within the league in terms of focusing on him, not really caring about the Pelicans. That was the whole thing with him. Who's the all-star on the Pelicans that gets disrespected? I forget. I'm blanking on his name. He played for the Lakers.
Brandon Ingram.
There you go. So it was a thing where they didn't give a crap about Brandon Ingram. It was a Zion show, right? And I think that's when we saw the shift. Okay, we're going to focus on Zion, focus on Luka, and while they've done a better job of focusing on those guys, I think the victim of that has been somebody like a DeAndre Ayton, right? Somebody like Trae Young until this year. Somebody like Devin Booker, who Devin Booker has been killing it ever since he's got into the league. But now he's starting to get his respect. And so the issue, I think, in my mind, is the league always focusing on, okay, we need to have Brooklyn, LA. We need to have, even Boston. Having big markets that have all-stars, that's good enough, rather than a small market with a player who's rising, even though that small market team may suck. So I think that is what we're seeing here is with two teams, I think, in the past, in the traditional history of the NBA, that have been mediocre, and seeing them rise And I think to a common fan being like, I don't know anybody on this team, I'm not going to watch. Where that's not the case at all. And the Phoenix Suns are deserving of being an elite team, and so are the Bucks. And this is a great matchup. But I think in terms of how the league promotes its stars, I think they have faltered, and I think that's why we're seeing the ratings be in this low. What I'm interested in seeing is kind of the social media metrics of this as well. That is a factor in this. But I think moving forward to the next season, I would like to see the league, I've had to come to this realization is that it's more of a star-powered league, 100%, and it's not so much about teams. And so, making sure that hey, there's a star here you should see, check them out, even though the game might be like a blowout, even though it might not be that competitive. That star is going to pay dividends later when eventually they're going to end up in a playoff or a final situation.
Yeah, great points. I think a couple other things. Like,
yeah, sure.
This is still, even with your point about social media, which I agree with, it's huge now, especially to the NBA's really target market of like 18 to 30-year-olds. TV deals aren't going to care, I don't think, as much about social media. So like it could impact the money that the NBA gets from like a TV contract negotiation. Now, it seems like that's in a good place anyway. It seems like TV deals are going to continue going up.
Yeah.
This would just be something that over time, I think if less than 10 million viewers becomes the norm, that's when you're going to see maybe TV. So we've got 2 years now potentially that our average views in the finals looks like it's not going to exceed 10 million viewers. Certainly last year that's already in stone. This year doesn't feel to me like it's going to rise as the series goes. Maybe if it goes 7 games, we'll see what happens, of course. But I think, you probably need like 5 years plus of ratings like lower than that 10 million mark for the broadcasting companies to start making a case against offering less money. That's going to be tough with momentum and competition. Apple and Amazon getting into, the sports broadcasting game, stuff like that.
And that's why
competition always helps.
And that's why I know we have a hard out, so I'll keep this brief. That's why I disagree with you, because I see the ratings for, again, I think it's a half comparison with Raw. Those ratings suck. They're terrible. And even when they renegotiated their deal with Fox and USA, their ratings were mediocre to bad. They got a lot of money, like in the billions of dollars, because live sports content is important, because a lot of people are now watching TV shows, Netflix, like you said, Matt, Amazon and Apple. Live sports is imperative. So anybody who has a live sport, even if the ratings are mediocre, they're still going to pay that premium price, because you're still getting, that 8 million viewers. That's still premium. I mean, you're not going to get 8 million viewers for really anything else on television, not even close. So while it's low, while it's disappointing, I think that the live sports and the paradigm shift where we're at, I think probably keeps the NBA still getting that value. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And you get Lakers Nets next year in the finals potentially.
That's true.
Then I'll be really curious to see, because if that were under 10 million viewers, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Quickly, let me just make one more point, and then I know we got to get out. Sure. The other thing that has happened for the past decade, really ever since the Miami Heat formed, LeBron James's Miami Heat super team, the league has kind of marketed itself off of hating a team in the finals.
Correct.
You look at all these series, it kind of flipped in a way almost when you had Cleveland make the finals, and it's still LeBron against the Warriors, but you have this dynamic now of like, oh, the Warriors are now the super team, and LeBron, even though that was kind of a super team as well.
Sure.
I think that has really hurt the league in these past 2 years, but especially this year, where we've both said, or at least I firmly say that I love both of these teams. I would be happy for either one of them to win the finals, happy for Giannis, happy for Chris Paul, Devin Booker, etc. There's really no one I'm watching. Like I'm just looking for great basketball, which has been decent the first 2 games. So I think that's an interesting component of this. That gets into like media marketing and stuff like that. I don't really care to have a team that that I hate to watch. Like
Me
I
either.
just
I know.
love watching basketball, but for the casual fan, it makes for, I guess, kind of an interesting point that there's nobody this year to really hate unless you just really don't like Chris Paul for some reason. I know
Yeah.
he can be polarizing for some people, but I think overall people respect him as a player and want to see him win a title.
Well, that goes to the marketing of the league, right? And I think also another thing is foreign stars in America don't really do that well in terms of being huge stars. I mean,
True.
if I see Dirk Nowitzki, I'm going to freak out like at a supermarket or something like, oh, that's Dirk. But I think to a casual person, it's just, he's just some dude at a grocery store. And I think that goes with a lot of foreign stars. I think you have to meet that kind of demographic. I think, Conor McGregor is an exception. There's like kind of Pele. There's kind of few exceptions, but for the most part, they don't do well. So I'm curious to see with Luka, just to see, he's such an awesome player, how that goes, if he's going to be the face of the league. But, he's, in my opinion, the most talented foreign player there's ever been in the history of basketball. So I'm curious to see how
Hard to
that,
argue, yeah.
translates to a casual.